Thanks for checking out this movie review video. So this is for the 2020 film Gretel and Hansel. And when I watch this and when I'm reviewing this, it's available on Hulu. I know I'm usually doing Shudder, but Hulu's actually been having some pretty good selections of horror films each month. And when I saw Gretel and Hansel, I jumped on that because it's an Oz Perkins production, and I really like the Black Coat's daughter. I really like the style of Oz Perkins, and I'd heard that Gretel and Hansel was quite good, so I definitely wanted to check that out. And I know probably a lot of people saw this like I kind of did initially and was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. And then I was like, oh, PG-13, probably not going to be so hot. But we shouldn't let that come between us and experiencing a film, especially when you watch a film like Gretel and Hansel and realize this is really good. And I I'm gonna say, I know some people probably disagree with me, but I'm gonna say I don't think it needed any gore to it. Sure, it would have been fun. It would have been nice to have the gore, but I don't think the film needed it at all. But if you disagree, you can let me know. Now, this is going to be a no spoiler review because it's a 2020 film, so it's pretty recent. A lot of people probably haven't seen it, so don't worry. No actual spoilers, but I mean, it's an old story too, so you probably already know a lot, but this is its own take on a very old Grimm's fairy tale, which is a dark tale. I mean, all of Grimm's fairy tales were very dark for the most part. Anyway, directed by Oz Perkins, like I said, has done The Black Coat's Daughter, which if you haven't seen The Black Coat's Daughter, definitely watch that. It's amazing, and I have a review for it on my channel. He also did I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which I've been meaning to see. I know it's on Netflix. I think that was a Netflix original film. I keep meaning to get to that one. Eventually I will. So the script was actually written by Rob Hayes, who's written scripts for East Meets Barry West and Monday. I don't know those films. And apparently the title change for the film, I know people mainly know it as Hansel and Gretel, but this one is Gretel and Hansel because it's all about Gretel mainly. This is her story. This is her journey. It's a coming of age story, actually. And Hansel's there. He has a lot of screen time, and he's important to the story, but you don't like get inside his head and experience things from his perspective the way you do Gretel. So yeah, good. Synopsis. Quick little synopsis. Do I even need to, honestly? It's Grimm's fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel, where a brother and sister in, I don't even know what time period this is. 1700s, maybe? I don't know. 1700 to 1800s. They are looking for food. They're hungry, and they stumble upon a witch in the woods. That's all I'm going to say. But we all know the story anyway. So they start with a backstory that's quite compelling and sets the story up in general very well. The opening segment before the title does exactly that. Gives you all the backstory you need to know about the witch, about the situation, and it's obviously, it doesn't give you necessarily everything because they need to leave something for the rest of the film to tackle, and there's a twist to it in the end. But they do a great job kind of setting up what the story is going to be, the feel of it, that back information, the base information that you need without doing it in a drawn out, boring way. So it's a good setup. It looks excellent from the start. This is a very stylish film. The cinematography is wonderful. The directing is wonderful. Really good acting. I mean, all the technical stuff for the most part is really good. It has a very nice score, even though at times the score gets a little heavy-handed, kind of beats you over the head as an audience member from time to time. I don't really like that stuff, but okay. They do use silence a decent amount of time to kind of like let things get calm, let you feel some of the tension. And one of the big things with the film, I think, is that it maintains tension pretty well with a really creepy atmosphere that is there through the entire film. And that's not easy to do. And I think that for that reason, the maintenance of that kind of creepy atmosphere and the ability to kind of keep tension going throughout the film really helps for a PG-13 movie, because otherwise, what do you really have? Like, otherwise you have to go hard on the gore. So if you can create that atmosphere and create that tension and keep it going, people aren't going to miss that gore as much, for the most part. You might be a different person watching this and being like, oh no, I need the gore. And that's fine, I understand that. But I'm just saying, for people like me, I'm okay. Based on the time period in which the film takes place, lighting is low in many of the shots, but you can always see what you need to see in it. And actually, they even use the low lighting in some very interesting ways throughout the film, including a bunch of scenes where they are kind of illuminating half of someone's face because of the positioning of the candles. That's, what the light source is for this time period, was lit candles. So it looks appropriate for the time period and it looks good. Like you can see everything you need to. It helps. Actually, the kind of like darkness of it helps with that creepy atmosphere and keeping the tension up, honestly. So I like that. The relationship between Gretel and Hansel feels very real. Now, this has to do with how the characters are developed within the story, how the dialogue is written, and the performances by the actors themselves. So all those things kind of come together, and you feel it. Like, you realize that, like, this Gretel and Hansel really feel like they are brother and sister, and the way they interact seems very realistic. So, yeah. An excellent quote resonates throughout the film. That quote is, "Nothing is given without something being taken." And you can actually probably apply that to like real life because that's a pretty true statement, to be honest. Yeah. Like I said, even though it's a PG-13, it keeps that kind of creepy atmosphere. But I do feel like that helps kind of keep you on edge to a degree throughout the entire film. I mean, there are a few moments where you kind of feel like you can relax somewhat, but I feel like for the most part, it, even though it gets kind of slow at times, it keeps you engaged and it keeps you feeling a little bit of like tension to it throughout the entire film. Like you never feel totally at ease, especially not for the characters. So I like that that's at play with the film. It does a lot for it. The witch's appearance walks the line of menacing, but not at the same time. It's very interesting because when you see the witch, you're kind of like, oh, the witch looks kind of menacing and kind of gross and, all those things. But then the more you see her, you're kind of like, well, I mean, kind of not though. So it was this very interesting choice where they chose to walk that line of creepy but not creepy at the same time. So I think it works. I think it's great. I think it keeps some things about the film ambiguous for a while, which is important. Well, not important necessarily, but it enhances the film experience. It doesn't move fast, but the pacing at which interesting things happen is well done and keeps you engaged. This goes back to, yeah, it's not a fast-paced film. Some people would probably say that it has some slow pacing to it, but it's done in a way that they give you enough breadcrumbs, and you get the pun, yeah. They drop enough breadcrumbs that you're continually interested. Like, you get your little breadcrumb and you're like, oh, I'm very much interested in what's going on. Then it starts to slow down a bit, and then you get that next breadcrumb before you start to feel like, oh, I'm starting to get bored here. So they do a good job of kind of, pacing that stuff out. The ending is tense and quite interesting, in my opinion. And the overall old story has kind of a new take here. This is a good update for this very, very old story, and it has something to say that's pretty new. So I really enjoy the way this is done. Most of the time, people want to complain, you're mining the same material over and over and over again. And for the most part, I think that does happen a lot, and that does suck. But in the instances like this, it's something new. There's a different take on it. It looks wonderful, and it's a great experience. So I'm all for it. Now, I am a little bit surprised that it was able to get a PG-13, not because of like gore level or anything like that. But there is one scene in particular, though, that I think that I'm surprised the MPAA didn't have a problem with, because it seemed too much. But I think in general, like the overall atmosphere and the feel of the film and the subject matter, I feel like that would have gotten it the R, because I've known of the MPAA being like that in the past and kind of pointing at a film and being like, well, there isn't one specific moment or any gory thing we can point to. It's just the overall feel of the film. I mean, if there's any film that's how you would get there, I would think this would be one of them. So I don't know. There are some issues with audio levels throughout the film. That does bother me. I don't like that, where you have it set at one level, the audio, and it's drastically higher in certain areas and drastically lower in others. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens here and there, and it's just a problem I wanted to note. It doesn't destroy the film, though. There's a great use of natural lines to frame shots, mainly like use of architecture is the big thing. And what I mean by that is that they'll basically, have a wider shot of characters in order to show like a framed line of some architecture. Like if you watch the film, or if you have watched the film, you will know what I mean. Or if you go and watch the film after this, you will know what I mean. But yeah, it's very strikingly beautiful to do that, to like let things that just happen to be there frame the shot for you. And I think it's very, very cool. There's a push and pull of being who you're supposed to be in society and the allure of wanting to be someone who's more free, kind of wanting to be like your true self. And I think that's really what's at the core of this. So it's interesting. I like that. Overall, good film. And like I said, this actually proves that there can be great PG-13 horror films. I'm not aware of a ton of them, but maybe I should get into watching more of them so that I can kind of figure that out and do reviews and report on that stuff. But would love to hear other people's opinions, so you can go ahead and put the comments down there. You can do spoilers in the comments, so that's fine. Go ahead. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving this a very good 4-star rating. I do highly recommend this film, and I'm glad I saw it. And between Gretel and Hansel and the Black Coat's daughter, I'm a fan of Oz Perkins. Gonna be watching for what else he does. Oh, and I also need to see I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. So when I do, I don't know how long that'll be, I'll do a review. But anyway, like I said, go ahead and put some comments. Do me a favor, though. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help me. It keeps me motivated when I see more people subscribing. And literally, it's your way to repay me. If you like any video I've ever done, you're not giving me money. Don't give me money. Give me subscriptions. Just subscribe. Costs you nothing. It's quick and painless. Anyway, I do appreciate you taking your time to check this out. And until next time, keep it brutal.